Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but
we were given accurate intelligence that we're up to 6 Taliban held up in a compound.
Instantly, just a blast of hot air just came over me, and an intense pressure that you couldn't imagine.
We all split up and took different sides. I led my team to the far side, which was laced with 4 IEDs.
At that point, it basically rendered me unconscious for 45 minutes. I was in and out for about an hour until I basically kind of came to in a field hospital at Fob Spiker in Tikrit.
We all missed the first one on the front corner and turkey peeking a doorway. I stepped on the second. 10 pounds of homemade explosives, pressure plate IED, buried 6 inches, detonated immediately.
I've been home about 6 months now, and I still have my doubts. I'm not sure how I got here or how I'm gonna get out. And my mama says I look the same as I did before I left. But if she could see inside of me, it would scare her to death. I can still taste the powder from the barrel of my gun. I can hear my sergeant screaming, "Run, soldier, run." I can feel the backpack on my shoulders, got it weighed a ton. And I see death in every single thought. They taught me how to put that uniform on. I just can't get it off. Last Saturday they honored us in a small parade downtown. When they shot off those fireworks, I nearly hit the ground. And while they smiled and cheered for us, all I could do was stare. 'Cause part of me is here at home, but part of me's back there. And I can still taste the powder from the barrel of my gun. And I can hear my sergeant screaming, "Run, soldier, run." I can feel the backpack on my shoulders, got it weighed a ton. And I see death in every single fall. just can't get it off.
I've prided myself on finding the silver lining in absolutely every situation. No matter how hard it is to find, there is a bright side to everything. I may have been relieved of 3 of my original issued limbs, but that gave me the opportunity to find true love, family, made him a possibility. You might have to widen your gaze, but it's there.
And I cut it down a little bit. It was a relatively lengthy article. Luther Herschel's story was born July 20th, 1932 in a rural community in Georgia. It was the Great Depression. Luther was the youngest of 3 children. They were extremely poor. They were sharecroppers. They lived in a house on somebody else's farm, and the way they got paid was sharing the crops they got. They raised cotton. Her sister mentioned that her hands would bleed by picking the cotton. Sweet potatoes was their diet 3 times a day. He never graduated high school because when he was 16, he convinced his mom to sign the papers so that he could go and serve. The teenage soldier ended up in Korea in 1950 with A Company of the 9th Regiment, 2nd Infantry Division of the U.S. Army. Korea, as most of us know, was split along the 38th parallel. After World War II, North Korea was under Soviet rule. South Korea was under the American sphere of influence. U.S. Army Commander Lieutenant General Walton Walker issued his famous command, "Stand or Die" order on July 29, 1950. There will be no more retreating, withdrawal, or readjustment of the lines, or any other term you will choose. There is no line behind us to which we can retreat. We must fight to the end. We will die fighting together. I want everyone to understand we are going to hold this line. The heroic battle of the Nadon River on September 20th, 1950 proved to be the turning point of the war. Teenage Private First Class at that time of his final battle story proved fearless in the face of death. He took over a machine gun from a wounded enemy, a wounded American, and fired on an attacking column, killing or wounding an estimated 100 enemy soldiers. The company commander ordered the unit to withdraw against overwhelming odds. Story, however, unleashed a barrage of hand grenades on an enemy troop truck towing an ammunition trailer. Out of grenades, he crawled to his squad, gathered up additional grenades, and again attacked the vehicle, the citation reads. Private First Class Story was wounded in action, but disregarding his wounds, rallied the men about him and repelled the attack. Realizing that his wounds would hamper his comrades, he refused to retire to the next position, but remained to cover the company's withdrawal. The citation went on. When last seen, he was firing every weapon available and fighting off another hostile attack. American and South Korean forces held the line. The terrible war ended roughly along the 38th parallel where it had begun. South Korea was saved as a modern constitutional republic. And it ends with the nation and its people have blossomed in the decades since. It is one of the world's 10 largest economies. The second story wouldn't have happened without the first. My daughter attends Liberty University in Lynchburg, Virginia, and Dr. Billy Kim spoke there at one of the convocations just a few weeks ago. And just a little backstory on Dr. Kim. He was born during the Japanese occupation of Korea. And when the Korean War broke out, his family was unable to escape, so he got to endure that challenging time. Billy worked as a houseboy for the U.S. military under Sergeant Carl Powers, who helped him to go to America to get an education. He left Korea November 12, 1951, a little more than a year after Story had fought his last battle. Billy learned English, converted to Christianity at a college in America. Meanwhile, all this time, Sergeant Carl Powers paid for Billy for 8 or 9 years to finish graduate school. And all Sergeant Powers asked for was that he would tell people about Jesus. Early on in his college career, Kim won the South Carolina speech contest with a speech entitled, "I Speak for Democracy." He went back to Korea, pastored a church that began with 10 people and grew to over 15,000. When he interpreted for Billy Graham at the event in Korea, had some 1.1 million people. He's very involved with developing radio broadcasts that reaches people in North Korea and China as well. And all because of the sacrifice of American veterans. Let's pray. Lord, today I thank you for our veterans, for their willingness to risk all so that our nation might dwell in peace and safety. I pray that you will heal the physical, spiritual, and psychological wounds some of these veterans have suffered. Help our veterans to forgive those in the government that have, through bad policy and decisions, caused harm to our soldiers, and those that helped aid our effort, knowing that by forgiving, we help ourselves in the healing process. We ask you to protect our troops currently serving, strengthen them with your power, may their courage never falter, minister to their spirits, may their cause be just. Give our military favor with the governmental agencies, may our leaders have clear vision and seek wise counsel. Curtail hostile actions before they start. May the response to any aggression by enemies of this nation be swift, accurate, and effective. Let them return to their loved ones unharmed. Should they be harmed, may their wounds heal. Should they perish in the struggle, please embrace them and find them a place in your kingdom. Father, may our veterans find honor and recognition deserved. Show us today ways in our communities, churches, and families to thank and love them better. John 15:13 states, "Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends." Your Son laid down his life for each of us, and you know each of us by name. You loved us while we were enemies, and all you want for us is to have a relationship with you. John 1:12, "But to all who did receive him, who believed in his name, he gave them the right to become children of God." I would ask all here to pray silently or out loud with me. I confess that Jesus is my Lord, raised from the dead. Please forgive me my sins, and I want you to be Lord of my life. Amen. If we could stand and face the flag, I will do the Pledge of Allegiance, and I will continue.
When they died, they gave up their chance to be husbands and fathers and grandfathers. They gave up their chance to be revered old men. They gave up everything for our country, for us. And all we can do is remember. There's always someone who is remembering for us. No matter what time of year it is or what time of day, there are always people who come to this cemetery, leave a flag or a flower or a little rock on the headstone. And they stop and bow their heads and communicate what they wish to communicate. I think sometimes of General Matthew Ridgway, who the night before D-Day tossed sleepless on his cot and talked to the Lord and listened for the promise that God made to Joshua. I will not fail thee nor forsake thee. We are surrounded today by the dead of our wars. We owe them a debt we can never repay. All we can do is remember them and what they did and why they had to be brave for us. All we can do is try to see that other young men never have to join them. Today as never before, we must pledge to remember the things that will continue the peace. Today as never before, we must pray for God's help in broadening and deepening the peace we enjoy. Let us pray for freedom and justice and a more stable world. And let us make a compact today with the dead. A promise in the words for which General Ridgway listened, I will not fail thee nor forsake thee.
Paul's a little taller than I am. Good morning, everyone. Those of us who served are grateful for patriots like you out here today who support us. Thank you very much. You support our families when we are deployed. You help make us what we are today. We couldn't do it without the families. The world's greatest force for stability and peace on the face of the earth are the families. And I'm grateful for all that you do. Thank you very much. Each November 11th, we gather to recognize the bravest of our citizens and many people who've served in the military in the name of our freedoms. Veterans Day honors all past military members who have served our country, regardless of the war, conflict, or if they lived or died. So the people it matters most to those, 18.2 million are living today, served in all the wars since, I believe, World War II. Recently, I made a speech in St. John, Indiana. I was fortunate enough to be the one that introduced a 100-year-old World War II veteran. He was very patriotic. He served in the Pacific in the Marines. And the man was more lucid than some of the 20-year-olds I've seen. I asked him what his secret was. I'll have to tell you that later. But it was pretty interesting. On the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, the fighting of World War I ended. And that was in 1918. Due to the conclusion of the war to end all wars, November 11th became a universally recognized day of celebration. The day was originally declared Armistice Day 8 years after World War I and honored only veterans of that war. Then in 1954, after World War II, the Korean War, it was renamed Veterans Day to honor all veterans who served America in war and defended democracy. Now, for all those who've been in combat, we know that only 1% of the population served in a war or during war. 1%. And yet, this day, Veterans Day, it serves a very important purpose. It is the day we recognize not just those who have given their lives in war, but all those who have worn the uniforms of service. This day, above all, is the opportunity to celebrate the choice one makes to serve their country. For some, it meant the worldwide conflict of World War II, or a lifetime of peacekeeping missions, or the tense standoff of the Cold War. Others in the jungles of Vietnam, or in Korea, Panama, and other conflicts in which we have asked our military to serve over the years. And of course, we can't forget that today, many service has multiple tours to Iraq and Afghanistan, on active duty or as reservists, and Guard members who sacrifice twice when they give up their civilian jobs in order to serve our country. God bless them. Roughly 1% of our population serves in the military, and as we consider the impact those individuals had on the world, defending freedom and protecting our democracy, Winston Churchill once said, "Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few." So today, we honor that debt. I would ask you to take time to honor service members past and present in at least one of several ways. We want to be able to say thank you to our veterans when you see them. We want to volunteer to help veterans and other things here that we do in the United States. I've had many people on the radio programs who are volunteers doing many different things. There are volunteers who get turkeys and give them away on Veterans Day and for Thanksgiving to the impoverished, and these are mostly made up of a lot of veterans organizations. The American Legion, the DAV, the VFW, AMVETS, all these organizations are doing something not only for the veterans, but also for the citizenship of the people of the United States of America. Make sure that you tell your children, and I know this may be hard, there's a lot of opportunities in the military. Opportunities abound. Unfortunately, a lot of people will say, well, I don't want them to go in the military, look what happened to you. Look what happened to this guy, look what happened to that guy. Well, what if we didn't have anybody in the military? What would happen to us? So it is important that we tell our children, if they're interested in going in the military, let them go, let them serve their country, let them learn something in the military. Some people come out, they've learned how to work computers, especially in this day and age. A lot of people go in there and they learn discipline, which they didn't have before. It plays an important part, especially when you're getting a job and working in industry. You have to have discipline. And the military teaches that, believe me. I had a drill instructor, his name was Bud Burns. I was with the Airborne at the time in jump school, and this guy was on Ed Sullivan's show, so he'd make us do push-ups. Turns out he's done more push-ups at one time than anyone else in the world. So you can imagine when we got this guy named Bud Burns, who was on Ed Sullivan's show, I'll give you an idea how old I am, doing these push-ups. So we couldn't do 1,000 push-ups like he could, but we'd work our way up to it. And being a paratrooper, of course, with the greatest push-up person at the time in the world, it was quite a challenge, I must say. When I went to Vietnam, I went in June of 1967, and I went to the 173rd. I was with the 82nd Airborne Division before that. And the first thing I saw when I was getting off the ship. I took a ship over there, and that was quite an exciting adventure also, because we hit a typhoon, and I saw waves that were probably over 100 foot tall. So the ship would go up, and then it would come down to the top, and that whole wave would come over the ship, and it would bang, and I thought I was never going to make it to Vietnam at the time. And of course, once we landed, we got deuce and a half, and we were going to a place called Anke, the first cavalry station there. They had a place called the Anke Pass. Being young, 19 years old at the time, we got attacked in this pass, which was expected. We had helicopter gunships escorting us to Anke. Anke was the home at the time of the 1st Cavalry Division. They had a big 1st Cav patch up on a hill. And that was the first incident that we had. I wasn't there but about 5 hours, and we were already in a major firefight. To give you an idea of how gruesome war is, especially Vietnam, where more bombs and bullets were spent than in World War I and II combined. So I was lucky. I was one of the lucky ones. I was sent out to a place called Dak To in Vietnam in November of 1967, where we pretty much had a major fight. And I say major because even our chaplain received the Congressional Medal of Honor. He was the first chaplain since World War II. He was chaplain of honors. But sometimes I get a little emotional about thinking about that. Our machine gunner, Rodriguez, received the Medal of Honor, also rolling off when we retreated back to another position. But when Veterans Day is here, and I've gone off the script now. So when Veterans Day is here, you don't know what some of these veterans have gone through. They don't necessarily have to go through combat. You read all the time about veterans flying in helicopters or a deuce and a half, and there's an accident or something happens. So all these military personnel are always under strain. Always. Because you never know when they're going to get deployed, what's going to happen in the world because of another war in which they're going to have to go to, where they're going to have to defend, and what they're going to have to do. They're like, they can't plan ahead because of this ain't over their head. This is very strenuous on this. Veterans today have a large, well, let me see here. Let me go and look through my script here. And I'll give you some information, some statistics. More than, and you see this on video, there are more than 2.5 million post 9/11 military veterans that have served our nation, which is less than 1% of the population, or 80% of those spent time in an overseas combat zone. 80%. Over 2 million served, and this is post 9/11 military, over 2 million served in Afghanistan and Iraq, spending 1 out of 3 years serving overseas. 60% are under the age of 34. 22 veterans, of course, you've seen that on a video, commit suicide every day. The suicide rate went down. Now it's gone back up again with the Afghan and Iraqi veterans in Desert Storm. It goes up and down, kind of like the stock market. And they've been trying to figure out how to stop it. 30% of vets have disability as a result of their service, 30%. 13 to 20% are diagnosed with post-traumatic stress. The VA says about 30% of people who serve in combat are dealing with PTSD. A long time ago, there was a study done. It was done by the NFL about traumatic brain injury. And of course, the VA got on board with it because a lot of the soldiers that are in combat, you can get blown up, shake it off, and keep trucking, while other guys around you are blown to smithereens. And you come back, and you don't know you've suffered a concussion or some kind of traumatic brain injury. You start maybe even hallucinating, or you start having headaches. A lot of veterans come back and have these headaches. 22% are diagnosed with a depressive disorder. Now, if you have a lot of people and you have to make decisions, you have one guy that's shot on the right, another guy that's shot on the left. You've got your pack sitting at your side, you've got to use your bandage to put it on one of the two sucking chest wound to stop the bleeding. Which one are you going to pick? You have to live with that decision. Since 2002, more than 200,000 service members have suffered traumatic brain injuries, and 1/3 of those veterans that need mental health care actually sought treatment. 1/3, that's it. Over 48,000 vets are homeless or at risk, and 47% feel like they're just a guest in their own home. They're still there. A lot of us in this room here, guys over here that are doing the salute with the rifles, people out here in the audience who serve in combat, your mind is always there. I remember the first day like it was yesterday. I remember the last day like it was yesterday. I remember the guys that got killed. I remember the replacements. I never wanted to remember names again after that, because it reminded me that maybe this guy's going to die when he came in. I didn't want to know his name. So when you come back from combat, there's a lot of hidden things in your mind that you don't even let your spouse know about. You keep it there, like in a sealed vault, but you remember every bit of it. 84% of veterans say that the American public has little awareness of the challenges facing them and their families. 71% of Americans say they don't understand the problems faced by those who have served since September 11th. 71%. 88% joined the military to serve our nation. Now, let me give you an example of that. During World War II, you know how old the youngest person was in World War II? 12 years old. Back then, I guess paperwork was a little bit easier to forge, and he was 12 years old when he went in the military. And he ended up coming out of the military at 12 years old. People were very patriotic. 94% are proud of their service. I think it's more like 98. I'm proud of my service. If I had to do it again, I would. And I'm sure most of the veterans here say the same thing. I would do it again. Nearly 1 million students, veterans, have attended college since 9/11. So you get the GI Bill, and you can attend college and try to build your life. 83% are male, and now in the last 20 years, you got 17% or more females in the military today. And 58% are married. Now, Thomas Paine said, those who expect to reap the blessings of freedom, and always remember this, because freedom doesn't come free. And if we want to remain a free country, we have to remember that we must not allow the government or any other organization to drive fear into us, to take away our rights. And they do that. Hitler did it. Stalin did it. But here, we must always be aware, not to sacrifice our freedoms because we're fearful of something. We must stand up and fight. Those who expect to reap the blessings of freedom must undergo the fatigue of supporting it, because maintaining freedom in this country, or in any country, requires sacrifice. And our veterans have sacrificed for our freedoms, that 1%. Many of you here today have borne the burden and experience of fatigue of waging war in order to bring about peace. So to you and all the veterans here, I say thank you. That shared service joins us together like no other bond. The camaraderie we share in military service helps to define us. I've always thought that Veterans Day kind of got the short end of the stick, holiday-wise. For many Americans, this is no official day of work. And you notice that there's different months now named after different things and different organizations, but there's not really a calendar that says Veterans Month. We have Veterans Day. For many Americans, there is no official day off work, as there is for July 4th, the holiday. And many people view Memorial Day as the official day to pay tribute to service members from various branches of the armed forces who've given their lives in service to the nation. Well, Veterans Day is today. And yet this day, Veterans Day, serves a very important purpose. It is the day we recognize not just those who have given their lives in war, but all those who have worn the uniform of service. This day, above all, is an opportunity to celebrate the choice one makes to serve their country. For some, it meant the worldwide conflict of World War II, of a lifetime of peacekeeping missions, which I said earlier, and of 10 standoffs in the Cold War. For some of us, again, like myself and a lot of others who were in the jungles of Vietnam, we stand ready even today to fight for the freedoms of the United States of America. We will not go to our graves and watch this country be destroyed. We will continue to fight. As long as I have a breath in my chest, we will continue to fight for the freedom of this country. Our fight never ends. Thank you very much, and may God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
To our veterans, they are those who answer the call of our country in times of peace or great conflict. They step forward, sign up, and swore the oath to defend our nation. Here we come to honor our veterans. Thank you for your service. In the next few moments, I will call the Sergeant of the Guard to give our veterans the honor of the volley of parade. Please prepare yourself, the reports may be startling. After the volleys, taps will be sung of our bugler. The sounding of taps turn on all military installations at the retirement of our flag at sunset. It also symbolizes the end of a soldier's day and lights out. These 24 notes are also sounded at the graveside to honor a veteran and let them know that duty is done and they may rest in peace. At the sounding of taps and the command to present arms by the Sergeant of the Guard, we ask that all veterans to salute. Everyone else, please place your right hand over your heart. The command to end the salute is order arms. After taps, burial flag, not today. We have 2 more funerals today. But thank you for your service, and I'll continue. At this time, if you're physically able, please stand for the record of military honors. Sergeant of the Guard, give our veterans the honor of a volley of 3.
Fire in position!
Reset. Up!
Ready!
My mom was born in Kentucky, but my granddad was gone. He was being a soldier a long way from home. She never got quite to meet him till the service was done. But then in 1950, they sent him off again. With trembling hands he signed on, but some had no choice. And they fought for freedom, and they fought for a voice. Battle scarred and weary, I could tell he was alone. Through hell or high water, he said I was coming home. My daddy got out of college, and he turned on the news. He heard him call that number, and he knew just what to do. All those boys became men in the blink of an eye. Fallen courage died with pride, but lost in the jungle inside. Trembling hands, some signed on, others had no choice. All for freedom and pride, they all fought for a voice. Battle scarred and weary, my dad was not alone. Through hell or high water, he was coming home. Now they brought more to our land and rattled us all, but it brought us back together. Damn, if this country ever falls. I know many who joined the forces in this new age of war, torn between coming home or going back on tour. With trembling hands they signed on, my friends made the choice. They fought for our freedom, they fought for our voice. Battle scarred and weary, walking softly in the sand. They'll sit hell or high water, I'm coming home again. Through all these battles, heaven opens the door, so they can all tell the maker about the shadows of war. They said, Heavenly Father, forgive all I have done. And hell or high water, I just want to go home. And hell or high water, I just want to come home.
So here ends the program. I just want to thank again each person here who served. And I would just encourage you, as Pat has shared, to thank a veteran and to just look forward to those other opportunities if you have grandkids or whatever, to encourage them to thank a veteran, and that the military is an opportunity for them as well. But may God bless your day, and may God bless America. Have a great day.